Hey, welcome to another episode of What the Heck Are We Doing at Minnesota Implement. So this little guy is a pile puller for the oil fields. This is an adaptation of a unit that we built for the solar industry for pulling support piles out of the ground for the solar panels. This one is an upgrade from that design. The solar unit was made so that it would just static hook onto the pole and pull it. We added a hydraulic carriage system to this and upsized everything almost 50% from the original units. So on this one, what we have is the telescopic pole unit and then a tool carrier on the front of that. And this tool carrier is hook and pin set up so that it can be removed from the base unit easily. And then we have hydraulic claws down here that are on the tool carrier so that they can grab up to a 16-inch piling or footing post and pull it out. These claws travel on a set of UHMW sliders. And then we have these removable and replaceable cleat plates on here, which are made with Hardox steel so that they will wear a little better. And they are replaceable, so they can be either reconfigured based on need, or if they start to wear, they can be replaced. But this full unit is built to be modular so that it can be adapted to whatever job site they're working on. And it's also made so that it can be taken apart for easy shipping. So this one pin can be removed and this full tool carrier can be lifted off of the cradle so that it can be shipped as two separate parts, because the tool carrier itself weighs 1,500 pounds and then the base unit weighs 2,500 pounds roughly. So there's 4,000 pounds worth of iron sitting here, and some machines might have trouble lifting that onto a 52-inch deck height. So this is something we always take into consideration when we're building our stuff, is we always want to make sure that the end user can handle the stuff easily. And so the other thing that we did on this was we put a set of fork pockets in here. So not only does this mount onto the machine, you can also lift it with a lull lift or a large fork truck, or you also can crane it. So there are crane lift points on both the base unit and on the tool carrier so that it's easy to handle this with an overhead crane or a boom truck. From there, these carriages are designed so that they will self-center. So they'll follow the path of least resistance. If you had a pole in here that is slightly off-center, the first claw will hit the side of the pole, and the second claw will continue to travel into it. With that in mind, if you're just pulling a 4 or 6 inch post, you don't really care whether you're centered. This thing has got plenty of stability to pull that post without doing any damage, even if it's way off-center. But if that was a 12-inch casing that's 30 inches deep, this thing will put 100,000 pounds of pressure to the ground. And if you were all the way off center with that casing, it could cause side load on it. So you always want to operate this with a spotter or put a camera system on here so that you can see your post, so that you know for sure that you're centered, because you don't want to side load this a lot. And also keep in mind, you always want your piling or your post as deep into the claws as possible so that you're back against the back plate if possible. Once again, we don't want to be off center a lot with this. These legs will take a lot of the forward torque, but you want to reduce that as much as possible. If you were to grab something all the way out on the outside of these jaws and put the full 100,000 pounds of force to the ground, there is the potential that you could bend something. So you always want to be as deep in the jaws as possible with your workload, and never chain anything to the front of these carriages or anything. You're going to create way too much twist load on the forward motion of this. So always work as deep to the tool as possible. Now, as I said, this unit puts around 100,000 pounds of pressure on the ground, and the clamping force is around 40,000 pounds. So in a lot of cases on like a 12-inch well casing, that's 1/4 inch thick or 3/8 thick, most likely this can crush that casing. So that's something you want to keep in mind is the crush force and the pressure to the ground. Now that's rated at 3,000 psi. All of the hydraulics on this is rated in excess of 3,000 psi. So it's 3,000 pound cylinders, 3,000 pound lift cylinders, and the crossover valve on this, which is your double relief valve, is capable of 3,000 pounds. All the lines are capable of 3,000 pounds. We dialed that back so that it's currently acting on a working pressure of 2,400, just for a safety buffer. So if you find you need a little more power, you could tune that up a little bit. You'd want to put a pressure gauge in the line and set it, but always make sure you stay below 3,000 pounds working pressure, because that's the safety pressure on everything. But just for longevity of the unit, we set it lower for right now. If you find you need more power to the ground, you can always bump that up. But that particular valve is over on our tower here. So this is our crossover relief valve that goes to the machine. This only needs an input and an output pressure, or your left and right hydraulic pressure. And then we have a 12 volt service here that operates the AB selector valve. So that is 12 volts at 15 amps. I made up a lighter plug circuit, which is kind of a primitive peak lighter circuit. Most likely your field service guy is going to want to wire this in permanent to the machine. You can always take this fit apart for parts to do so, but for right now, this allows you to plug into your lighter circuit and be up and running immediate, and then you can modify it as needed in the field. But that just gives you your 2-wire clip that is needed with 12 volt positive and negative feed. So it is, when it has no voltage going to it, it is in lift mode. So it always defaults to lift mode so that you can easily break the unit down. Even if you have to do that with a machine that you don't have the 12 volt power on, you can lift the carriage for easy disassembly. When you put 12 volts to it, it redirects that power to your claws. If you need to take the tool carrier off of this, that is very easy to do. As I said, it's one pin, and each cylinder has these quick couplers on each side. So you just disconnect the quick couplers and then pull your pin, and that tool carrier comes off. So it can be taken off with a 2-man crew within about 2 to 3 minutes. It's really fast to disconnect it. The tool carrier does go slightly past ground level. So this is designed so that these cleats, if you were in soft material, these cleats will touch the ground. Which means when it's sitting on concrete like this, if you were to travel the tool carrier all the way to the bottom of the cylinders, it does lift it a little bit. So for static storage, you do want to leave the tool carrier lifted about 1 inch or 1.5 inches, just so that the flanges of these carriages aren't pushing into the concrete or into the deck of the trailer. Not a big deal on a wood deck, but on an aluminum deck, that could leave scores in the aluminum deck. So like I say, you just want to leave the tool carrier elevated about 1.5 inches for travel purposes. So the unit's dimensions, as I said, is right around 4,000 pounds. I believe it's 4,880 is the actual weight of everything. The unit is 94 inches wide by 80 inches long by 105 inches tall. So it might be a little difficult to get this into an enclosed cube van. It would be best to ship it by a flat deck trailer. As I had said in our entry, this is built for use on a skid steer. So we've got our universal skid steer faceplate on here. And then from the other side, you can see the fork pockets that are built in there. Those are 46 inches to the outside, and they will take a 6-inch by 2.5 inch thick pallet fork. So you can move this with a pretty good sized machine. That's pretty well it, I believe, for fit and function on the unit. We are Minnesota Implement. This is our pile puller going up to the oil fields in Canada. Please check out our other 180 some videos on our other custom equipment and our regular product line of snow plows and tree pullers. As you can see, we can take a little tree puller and turn it into a massive tree puller pretty easy. Well, easy is a relative term because this thing took 6 weeks and a whole lot of stress. But we're Minnesota Implement. Please check out our other videos. Please check out our website at minnesotaimplement.com, and thank you very much for watching.